Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today's story is one that cuts deep into the heart of South Africa's justice system, a story about fear, power, and the growing concern that even those sworn to uphold the law may be operating under pressure behind the scenes. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner MKHWANAZI has made a revelation that is now shaking the foundations of public confidence. According to him, even senior officers within the South African Police Service, experienced leaders who are supposed to enforce the law without fear or favor, are reportedly too afraid to mention the name of Steve Motsumi. Now pause and think about what that really means. This is not just about one name. This is about what that name represents: influence, fear, and possibly power that extends beyond what is visible to the public. Speaking before a parliamentary panel, MKHWANAZI did not hold back. He described an environment inside law enforcement that many would find deeply disturbing, an atmosphere where silence is not just common, but necessary for survival. He suggested that officers, even at the highest levels, are reluctant to speak openly. Not because they lack information. Not because they don't understand their responsibilities. But because they are afraid. Afraid of consequences. Afraid of retaliation. Afraid of what might happen if they say too much. And when fear becomes part of the system, everything changes. Because policing relies on confidence, confidence in leadership, confidence in the system, and confidence that the law applies equally to everyone. But what happens when that confidence starts to crack? The mention of Steve Motsumi has now become central to this unfolding situation. While investigations into his alleged activities are still ongoing, the mere fact that his name reportedly creates hesitation among police officials has raised serious red flags. It suggests that his perceived influence may be significant enough to intimidate even those who are trained to confront danger. And that is where this story becomes even more sensitive. Because if law enforcement officers, people who carry the authority of the state, feel threatened, then what does that mean for ordinary citizens? What does it mean for whistleblowers? What does it mean for witnesses who are expected to come forward and testify? This situation highlights a dangerous cycle. When fear exists at the top, it filters down. Junior officers observe the behavior of their superiors. They learn what can be said and what cannot. They learn when to speak and when to remain silent. And over time, that silence becomes normal. But silence, in a system that depends on truth, can be extremely damaging. Experts are already warning that this kind of environment can weaken investigations, delay justice, and create opportunities for criminal networks to operate without resistance. Because let's be clear, crime does not need full control of a system to succeed. Sometimes, all it needs is hesitation. All it needs is fear. All it needs is silence. And according to MKHWANAZI's testimony, those elements may already be present. This comes at a time when South Africa's policing structures are already under intense scrutiny. Parliament has been examining a wide range of issues, from organized crime to internal accountability, from corruption allegations to leadership challenges. And now, this revelation adds another layer to an already complex situation. Because it shifts the conversation from external threats to internal vulnerability. It forces people to ask, is the system strong enough to police itself? Civil society organizations have responded quickly, calling for urgent action. They are demanding stronger protections for whistleblowers, individuals who risk everything to expose wrongdoing. They are calling for independent investigations, processes that are not influenced by internal pressures. And they are pushing for transparency, because without it, trust cannot be rebuilt. And trust is already fragile. When the public hears that police officers are afraid, it changes perception. People begin to question whether justice is truly being served. They begin to wonder whether certain individuals operate above the law. And once that doubt sets in, rebuilding confidence becomes extremely difficult. Another important issue here is leadership. Leadership within law enforcement is not just about giving orders, it's about setting an example. It's about creating an environment where officers feel supported, protected, and empowered to do their jobs. But if leaders themselves feel constrained, that sends a powerful message throughout the ranks. It creates uncertainty. It creates hesitation. And ultimately, it creates risk. There is also the question of accountability. If fear is preventing officers from speaking, then who ensures that wrongdoing is exposed? Who ensures that investigations move forward? Who ensures that justice is not delayed? These are not easy questions, but they are necessary ones. Because the consequences of inaction can be severe. Analysts have warned that if this situation is not addressed, it could lead to long-term damage within the policing system. It could affect recruitment, morale, and operational effectiveness. It could also impact cooperation between the public and law enforcement, something that is essential for solving crimes. Now, let's talk about the broader picture. This is not just about one commissioner or one individual. This is about the balance of power within a system. It's about whether institutions are strong enough to withstand pressure. It's about whether the rule of law applies equally, regardless of influence or status. And right now, those questions are being asked across the country. As for Steve Motsumi, investigations are still ongoing. There are no final conclusions yet. But the impact of his name, as described by MKHWANAZI, has already sparked a national conversation. A conversation about fear. A conversation about influence. And a conversation about whether the system is functioning as it should. Moving forward, all eyes will be on how authorities respond. Will there be decisive action? Will officers be given the protection they need? Will transparency improve? Or will this moment pass without meaningful change? These are the questions that remain unanswered. And there are questions that matter, not just for law enforcement, but for every citizen who depends on the system for protection and justice. Because at the end of the day, a justice system cannot operate effectively in the presence of fear. It requires courage. It requires accountability. And above all, it requires trust. If you found this in-depth breakdown helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think fear is influencing decisions within law enforcement? And what changes do you believe are necessary to restore confidence in the system? Let's start that conversation. See you next time.